That can't be the sun because the sunset is over there.
The unusual.
Have you ever looked up at the sky and felt a cold shiver of fear run down your spine, like God was quietly whispering that mankind's time is running out? When wars break out, natural disasters roar, and diseases sweep through country after country, the sky doesn't stay silent anymore. It starts shaking, flashing, cracking open, like a giant warning sign hanging right above our heads. From America to India, strange things keep showing up one after another. A second sun burning bright red on the horizon, black rings just hanging motionless in the air, dark gates swinging wide open between the clouds, swirling lights like some secret ritual, loud trumpet sounds ripping through the sky, huge shadowy figures appearing in the storm. 3 suns lined up in a cold row. It all comes fast, piling on top of each other, as if the sky is in a hurry to send a message that humanity isn't ready to face yet. Do you feel like the future is getting squeezed tighter every day? Leave a prayer in the comments below, the way you hold on to your faith, before we go deeper into each sign and find out what's really waiting ahead, okay? Amen. Now, come with me as we dig in and get started with 1. The mystery about 2 suns appearing at the same time in Florida. A second bright red sun suddenly hung in the Florida sky, turning a peaceful sunset into something breathtaking and a little scary. In Jacksonville and Fort Walton Beach, folks rushed outside, panicked, holding up their phones to record it. Even just watching on a screen, you could feel how unreal and mysterious it looked. No one had time to figure out what was happening as that glowing ring flared up and swelled right along the horizon. That huge red thing was said to be almost a mile wide, hanging low and burning fiercely next to the real sun as it set, painting the whole sky a thick blood red. Thick smoke from wildfires up in Canada had drifted down, creating a heavy haze that made everything feel even more dreamlike, like a curtain being pulled back to reveal something hidden for a long time. A lot of people got scared when they realized this wasn't our usual sun, but a fiery red eye watching over humanity. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Hearing those words while staring at 2 glowing orbs side by side sent chills down the spine. Then Matthew 24:29 warns, "Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Could this be the first bell ringing from that red sky? Still, some folks say it was just the wildfire smoke changing the sun's color, or maybe lens flare from phone cameras. But why did that glow look so separate, so huge, and hang there quietly for so long on the horizon? Science talks about refraction and atmospheric dust, but it doesn't quite chase away the feeling that something unusual just showed itself. When 2 lights sit together in the same frame, all the calm explanations start to feel pretty thin. I'm sharing this as something that really happened, but I can't ignore the spiritual weight it carries. If this is just the opening act, if those 2 suns are only the first sign, then what happens when the line between the familiar light and this strange one blurs completely? And if one day they collide in some fateful moment, will the sky ever stay quiet like it used to? 2. Mysterious shapes appear with each flash and flicker of lightning in the clouds. Boom! Lightning bolts rip across the Chicago sky, then roll down toward Texas like blinding white slashes. In those shaking moments, strange, eerie forms suddenly show up among the thick black clouds. A familiar stormy night turns into a warning. making folks on the ground tremble as they look up. If you saw it yourself, you'd probably get chills with every thunderclap crashing down because of its sheer power. Between the non-stop flashes, dark structures pop out for a split second, then vanish when the light dies. They're hundreds of feet long, woven together like giant wheels, nested inside each other. They don't drift like regular clouds or break apart like smoke. They appear in an orderly way, forming a huge hanging network in the sky, like a massive machine slowly waking up. Every time lightning flares, those circles stand out clearer, then get swallowed back into the dark, leaving the sky heavy with mystery. Ezekiel 1:16 says, "The appearance of the wheels and their workmanship was like the gleam of beryl, and the four of them had the same likeness." Their appearance and workmanship being something like a wheel within a wheel. When people compare those old words to what's caught on spreading videos, a lot of them get goosebumps over the strange similarity between an ancient vision and these modern storm images. On social media, folks are split right down the middle. One side says, "It's just pareidolia, our brains making shapes out of mammatus clouds lit up by lightning, and science can explain it all with unstable atmospheric patterns." The other side, the faithful ones, believe it can't be pure coincidence that these wheels within wheels show up right when the sky is shaking so hard. It feels like something's being allowed to peek through. Some even say it looks exactly like descriptions of the Ophanim angels. Do you agree with that view? Revelation 6:12 says, "When the Lamb opened the sixth seal, I saw a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood." That talk of earth and sky shaking, darkness covering everything, makes many believe these storm shapes aren't just illusions. They're part of a series of signs slowly being revealed. In all the arguing and doubting, the question isn't just clouds or no clouds anymore. It's why these structures match so closely with descriptions written thousands of years ago. If it's only weather, that coincidence is really hard to explain. If not, then maybe we just caught a brief glimpse of guardian angels that usually stay hidden behind thick clouds. I'm not just reporting news anymore. When those wheels appeared in the thunder and lightning, it felt like a warning went out. If lightning keeps tearing the sky in coming storms, will the Ophanim show themselves more fully? And if they do, what might come after such a powerful appearance? 3. Mysterious bright streaks. The sky suddenly turned into a strange map when thin lines of light flashed and curved through the clouds, like an invisible hand was halfway through, drawing an old message. No big boom, no wild storm, just a weird moment that lasted a few seconds and made folks shiver, wondering, did we just miss a sign? Those patterns vanished so fast that your memory barely had time to catch them. In California and Florida, where people are used to sky shows and lights up high, lots of witnesses said they saw strange glows behind the high clouds. Then parallel lines stretched out for miles, like a web. They weren't straight like regular contrails. They curved in patterns, crossed neatly, then disappeared, leaving the sky empty, as if nothing had happened. That surprise left many people standing still for minutes, staring at the spot that had just changed. Some folks give a science explanation, maybe gravity waves or noctilucent clouds catching light way up high, a rare thing, but not supernatural. That sounds reasonable, but why do those lines look so perfect, so balanced and repeating, almost like a design? What do you think when something that seems random starts looking intentional? That question just hangs there quietly, up in the sky and in people's hearts. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." When folks read that again, many believers feel those curving cloud lines might be part of those wonders, not to scare us, but to wake us up. If the sky really is a place where power shows itself, then even a small change could mean something bigger than just science. The videos show a flash of light right before the lines appear, like an invisible door cracked open. They stretch miles across a pale gray sky, then fade in just a few breaths, making people feel like they saw something outside the usual order. The mystery is that it's quiet, no noise, no drama, and that's exactly why it makes you think harder. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." That Bible verse isn't just about something far off. It hints the sky will show signs you can't mistake. Could those strange patterns be a gentle reminder to look up and search for deeper meaning? Even as science keeps looking for answers, the way Bible descriptions match what people saw makes many believe this isn't just weather. Those lines feel like the first brushstrokes in a bigger picture, a light mark, but strong enough to stir up faith that's grown cold. When the light flashes and fades, what's left isn't just empty sky, it's a quiet question burning inside whoever watched. If that's really God's mark, drawing a soft warning before bigger changes come, where do we stand in that picture? Are those patterns just the opening notes for a wider door that might open in the sky? And if one day those lines don't fade but form a clear image, will humanity be ready for what's waiting ahead? 4. 2 mysterious dark objects hanging in the sky. 2 huge black shapes suddenly appeared, just hanging there in the thick clouds, completely still like gates that had opened from some other world. The whole sky went dark for a few breathless minutes. No thunder, no loud boom, just these threatening round black voids showing up. If you looked up and saw a hole like that staring down at you, what would you think it was? In places like Basel and Milwaukee, where thick clouds often cover the sky, people who saw them said those shapes didn't drift like smoke or fade like mist. They stayed solid and steady in a way that gave you chills. They were round or oval, maybe about 500 feet across, with really sharp edges, and the center so dark it seemed to swallow all the light around it. The scene wasn't noisy, but that very quietness made it feel more eerie and scary than any storm. Some folks say these were fall streak holes, those cloud holes that form when ice crystals drop and clear out the surrounding cloud layer. Scientists explain that planes flying through super cold cloud layers can cause this, leaving a clear, round gap in the sky. They point out it's a known physical process that's been studied, not some supernatural gate, and we don't deny that. Science always tries to explain things that seem strange. But the question still hangs there, just like those dark shapes. And why were they so black this time, almost soaking up the light? And why did they stay still for so long while the clouds around them were moving? Have you ever wondered, if everything can be explained, then where does that creepy feeling come from? It's right in that mix of knowing and uneasiness that people start turning to old writings. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above, and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." When strange shapes like this hang in the sky, many believers see it as more than just weather. They see it as a quiet warning that humanity is entering a time to wake up, not to spread panic, but to remind us that darkness isn't only up in the clouds. Isaiah 13:10 says, "The stars of heaven and their constellations will not show their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not give its light." Those sky holes with black patches remind people of a time when light gets covered up, like some dark period is drawing near. If those sky gates are just clouds, they still remind us nature can change in an instant. But if they're a sign, it's a much stronger warning. Science keeps watching and explaining, but the event still leaves a lasting, uneasy feeling for those who saw it. Those 2 hanging shapes are like doors opening in the sky, real yet mysterious, something you can measure yet beyond any measurement. If they're gates to God's judgment, as some believe, then what are we standing at the edge of? And if one day those gates don't just hang there, but really open wider, swallowing all the light around them, what do you think is on the other side? Just the cold, empty space of the atmosphere, or something people have long avoided naming? 5. A strange black circle floating in the sky. A huge black ring suddenly appeared, hanging right on the horizon. It was so sharp and clear that a lot of people just froze, feeling like they were looking at some kind of curse drawn across the sky. It wasn't a cloud, it wasn't birds, it was a perfect circle just suspended in the air, completely still, almost challenging anyone to look away. That image hit hard right away. Hundreds of eyes stayed locked on it in heavy, quiet shock. It was spotted near Disneyland and over in Williamsburg, where the late afternoon sky had been nice and clear before sunset. Folks who saw it figured the black ring was about 200 feet across. It looked clean and almost perfectly even, not spread out and messy like normal smoke. As the light got weaker, the edges thinned out, but the shape stayed the same, like it was hanging there on purpose for everyone to see. A lot of people thought it might be a smoke ring from fireworks or from an electrical transformer blowing up and forming a circle. That idea isn't crazy. Power explosions can make black smoke rings for a short while. But what got people wondering was how it showed up exactly at that bright red sunset time and stayed nearly motionless in just a light breeze. Have you ever seen a smoke ring hang still that long in a wide open sky? That black ring didn't swirl hard or disappear fast. It just floated there, like a sign against the sky, turning deep purple. When the sun touched the horizon, the outer edge got thinner, making it feel like a giant eye slowly closing. That strange, eerie feeling gave a lot of people chills, not just from the shape, but from the sense that something you can't quite name was closing in around them. Revelation 15:1 says, "I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues. For in them the wrath of God is complete." When a perfect black circle hung there like a mark in the sky, quite a few believers took it as one of those signs warning that God's wrath is getting close. Even if science can't explain it, the image still brought to mind warnings about the last days. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven, and on the earth there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places." Great signs from heaven aren't always meteors or eclipses. Sometimes it's just a clear symbol that stirs up fear in everybody. That floating black ring in the fading daylight felt like a picture of being surrounded, of darkness slowly closing in around all of humanity. No one knows for sure what really caused it. The strange sight was caught on video from different angles and spread fast. The worry wasn't just the odd shape, it was the feeling that it showed up at exactly the right moment and place, like something set up on purpose. As the ring thinned out and faded into the dark sky, a lot of people just stood there, staring up at the empty space it left behind. If that black ring was only smoke, it still leaves a question about why it appeared at that exact time and looked so perfect. But if, as some people believe, it stood for the final darkness closing in, then was that fading away just a temporary pause? Once it vanished completely, will the darkness keep spreading and swallow the whole sky? Or was that only the start of something even bigger waiting ahead? 6. Mysterious circle of light. A strange thing spread right in the middle of the dark night. Circles of light started spinning out of nowhere in the sky. No warning, no clear explanation. From far away, they looked like glowing wheels turning slowly high up in the air, real and dreamlike at the same time, making anyone who saw them wonder if they were watching a show or some ancient ritual coming back to life. It happened in Nagpur, a busy city full of LED lights, light festivals, and outdoor events. But that night, the beams didn't just shoot up and fade like usual. They spun in perfect circles, growing into huge rings of light hundreds of feet up. They moved smoothly together, overlapping, spreading out, then pulling back in, like they were drawing perfect concentric circles against the deep black sky. People gathered in the streets, looking up as the bands of light swept across, then curled into rounds. White light mixed with blue swept over thin clouds, creating a magical effect. It reminded folks of drone shows or disco lights, but on a much bigger scale, with impossibly smooth motion, as if some invisible hand was guiding it all. Every spin was steady, unhurried, never messy, so viewers felt there was some deep order behind the light. Ezekiel 1-4 says, "I looked, and there was a whirlwind coming from the north, a great cloud, with flashing fire all around, and brightness surrounding it." Reading that again, the spinning lights in the night clouds suddenly felt very close and familiar, like those circles were an echo of an old vision. Bright light surrounding the cloud, moving with purpose, it brought to mind glory and power beyond normal understanding. Some say it was just revolving lights for a local event, but the question remains, why did similar videos show up in other places around the world at the same time? That kind of timing, even if it's a coincidence, still makes you feel the light wasn't just man-made tech. When the circles spin steady like ancient wheels, people start thinking of visions recorded thousands of years ago. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." Acts 2:20 repeats it, "The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and glorious day of the Lord comes." These Bible verses feel like a key, tying light and darkness together in the same motion, signaling a shift from the old order to something glorious arriving. As the circles kept turning, then slowed before fading into the night, a deep curiosity spread through the crowd. If it was only technology, it still showed a hidden human longing for something sacred. But if it was a sign, maybe we're quietly watching preparations for a much bigger day. Those steady circular movements felt like a ritual opening the way, a prelude before the curtain rises. Imagine one night, the spinning doesn't fade away, but stops right there in the sky, the light gathering into a clear shape. If an angel really appeared inside that circle, would we recognize it as the return we've been told about? Or would we keep looking for another explanation while the sky quietly keeps turning overhead? 7. Strange shadow moving in the storm. Right in the eye of the storm, a huge, shadowy figure holding a staff suddenly appears in a flash of lightning, pitch black and towering like a messenger from the heavens just streaking through the sky. It leaves you with a real chill running down your spine. This wasn't some regular cloud, not a tree shadow or a power pole. It was a clear human shape standing tall against the swirling sky. In that moment, as the lightning ripped through the dark, you could almost feel heavy footsteps strolling across the clouds above. This was caught on camera in the Philippines and in Minnesota, places that know all about fierce storms and constant thunder and lightning. In just a few seconds of bright flash, the dark figure stood out plainly, probably hundreds of feet tall, one hand seeming to grip a long staff pointed toward the ground. When the lightning faded, the shadow vanished fast, but it lasted long enough for several cameras to capture its almost perfect outline. People who saw it say they didn't just see it, they felt its presence, like the figure wasn't standing still but gently shifting with each rolling cloud. Its shape wasn't some random distortion, it looked strangely balanced, from the head and shoulders right down to what looked like that staff in its hand. We can tell ourselves it's just light playing tricks and our imagination running wild, but that feeling of being watched from way up high sticks with you long after the storm passes. Weather experts say this is probably pareidolia, when our brains see human faces or figures in random patterns, like clouds and lightning flashes. They explain that a bolt can light up layers of clouds from just the right angle, creating a quick illusion. That makes sense. Storm skies are always changing and chaotic. Still, why does the illusion come out so clearly as a person holding a staff, clear enough that several people spot the same kind of figure at once? Matthew 24-27 says, "For as the lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man." When that lightning cuts across the sky and reveals this giant shadow, that Bible verse rings out more like a hint than a coincidence. It appears with the flash, quick but unmistakable, and many believers feel it's a reminder that something powerful is drawing near. Revelation 6:13 says, "The stars fell to the earth as the fig tree drops its late figs when shaken by a strong wind." In the middle of the storm, with thunder, lightning, and wild gusts shaking the sky, that staff-holding shadow feels like part of a bigger picture, where heaven and earth are both trembling. Not to scare us into panic, but like a warning bulletin that dark moments can cover everything before something tremendous arrives. If it's only an illusion, it still touches our deepest fear. Something huge and out of our control watching us. But if it's a real messenger sent to warn us, then every lightning flash from now on might not be just nature anymore. And if on another stormy night, that shadow doesn't just stroll across the clouds, but comes closer, clearer in the blinding light, will we call it another trick of the eye? Or will that be the moment the sky doesn't just light up, but actually opens so the sacred can step down to earth? 8. A trumpet sound echoed across the Paris sky. Suddenly, in the middle of the afternoon, a sharp, piercing noise came from above, stopping the whole neighborhood in its tracks, like someone blew a giant horn right through the gray clouds. No car horns, no church bells, just a long, booming trumpet note that vibrated deep in your chest, making you look up without thinking, trying to find where it came from. In just a few minutes, the usual calm turned into confused chaos. It happened in Paris, the city once called the City of Light, but that day it was filled with this strange sound no one could pin down. The trumpet echoed, low then high, long blasts like metal wind slicing through the air, bouncing off the old stone walls and coming right back. People in the square jumped. Some ran in different directions. Others froze, holding phones up to the sky in a shared shiver. The sound wasn't like an airplane or an alarm siren. It felt like an ancient instrument amplified 100 times. It cut through the air, held long, then stopped short, only to start again, as if someone was testing long notes up among the clouds. Those who heard it said the ground seemed to tremble a little, hearts beat faster, and the sky felt heavy pressing down whenever the sound hit its peak. Many scientists and sound engineers think it could be sky trumpets, atmospheric noises from shifting tectonic plates, metal sounds from construction, or echoes in subway tunnels. They point out that Earth often makes strange sounds when pressure and geology change. That explanation makes some sense. But why did it sound exactly like a classic trumpet, with clear rhythm and pitch? 1 Thessalonians 4:16 says, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God." When that Bible verse came up amid the chaos, many believers didn't see it as just coincidence. A trumpet from the sky isn't only a sound, it's a signal, a wake-up call in a serious time that no one can ignore. Revelation 8:2 says, "And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them." The picture of trumpets handed to angels feels like a strong warning of events that follow the first sound. If each blast marks a step, then the noise in the sky that day might just be the beginning of something much bigger being prepared. The sound finally faded, leaving a heavy silence on the streets. But that quiet didn't bring peace. It felt more like the pause between 2 trumpet blasts, everyone waiting for what comes next. Even as science keeps searching for the cause, the echo of that trumpet still haunts those who heard it. If it was only a natural event, it was strong enough to shake an entire city. But if it was God's trumpet calling people to wake up, then each next blast might not just be noise. It could be the sign of a new chapter in history opening. And when that trumpet sounds again, will we realize what we're facing? 9. Mysterious glowing orb above the mosque tower in Medina. In the quiet, peaceful air of the holy site, a soft, round light suddenly appeared above the mosque tower. It wasn't loud or flashy. but it was enough to make everyone stop and look up in silent awe. The orb wasn't blinding like fireworks, and it didn't streak across the sky like a shooting star. It just floated there, calmly, like a gentle point of light against the night sky. In that moment, you could almost feel your own heartbeat slow down, as if you were seeing something beyond everyday life. The sighting happened in Medina, right above the area near Al-Masjid an-Nabawi, one of the most important holy places in Islam. Witnesses described the orb as glowing, with a white light tinged with gold. It looked about a few feet across when compared to the size of the tower. It hung steady in the air, with no engine noise or any sign of control. It didn't move like a drone, didn't shake in the wind, just quietly stayed there, then slowly faded away like a soft breath. Some people thought of those metallic orbs that have been filmed in the Middle East, bright round objects reflecting moonlight and city lights. But what made this event stand out was the location and the sacred feeling all around it. The orb didn't shoot away or explode. It just gradually disappeared, layer by layer of light, as if it had delivered some silent message before leaving. A few folks said it might have been nothing more than a balloon catching the glow from lights below, or maybe a small piece of meteor burning up and going out. Those explanations could easily be true in our physical world. But why would something so ordinary show up exactly over a holy place, where millions come looking for peace and prayer? That coincidence alone makes many people think deeper instead of settling for a simple mechanical answer. Matthew 24:3 says, "As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. 'Tell us,' they said, 'when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?'" People have been asking about signs for thousands of years. And every time something strange shows up in the sky, it reminds us of that longing to understand our place in the bigger flow of time. That glowing orb, in the stillness of Medina, felt like a gentle nudge that the question still matters. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars." That floating light might just be a natural thing, or it might be one of those signs the Bible mentions. Not to scare us, but to strengthen faith. When a sign appears right in a sacred place, it links heaven and earth in a single moment, making faith feel more alive than ever. If it was a quiet reminder to hold on to steady faith in a changing world, then that light did its job. But if it comes back another night, not just floating, but shining brighter and carrying a clearer message, will we be ready to really hear what that holy light is trying to say? 10. Mysterious glowing orb above the mosque tower in Medina. In the calm, peaceful air around the holy site, a soft, round light just appeared above the mosque tower. It wasn't loud or showy, but it made everyone stop and look up in quiet wonder. The orb wasn't bright like fireworks, and it didn't zip across the sky like a shooting star. It simply floated there, steady and gentle, like a soft light against the dark night. Right then, you could almost feel your own heart slow down, as if you were seeing something bigger than normal life. This happened in Medina, right over the area near Al-Masjid an-Nabawi, one of the holiest places in Islam. People who saw it said the orb glowed with white light that had a touch of gold. It looked maybe a few feet wide compared to the tower. It stayed perfectly still in the air, no engine sound, no sign it was being controlled. It didn't dart around like a drone or wobble in the wind. It just hung there quietly, then slowly faded away like a soft sigh. Some folks remembered those shiny metallic orbs caught on video in the Middle East, bright round things that catch moonlight and city lights. But what made this one special was the place and the peaceful, sacred feeling all around. The orb didn't zoom off or blow up. It just gently disappeared, layer by layer, as if it had quietly shared a message before going. A few people figured it was probably just a balloon picking up light from below, or maybe a small meteor fragment burning out. Those things could easily happen in the real world. But why would something so everyday appear exactly over such a holy spot? where millions come for peace and prayer. That one fact alone makes a lot of us pause and think deeper, instead of going with the easy answer. Matthew 24:3 says, "As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. 'Tell us,' they said, 'when will this happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?'" For thousands of years, people have been asking about signs. And every time something unusual appears in the sky, it brings back that deep wish to understand where we fit in the bigger picture of time. That glowing orb in the quiet of Medina felt like a soft reminder that the question still matters. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars." That floating light might just be something natural, or it might be one of those signs the Bible talks about. Not to frighten us, but to build up our faith. When a sign shows up right in a holy place, it connects heaven and earth in one special moment, and faith suddenly feels more real and alive. If it was a gentle nudge to keep holding on to solid faith in a changing world, then that light did what it was meant to do. But if it comes back some other night, not just floating, but shining stronger with a clearer message, will we be ready to truly listen to what that holy light is trying to tell us? The 10 strange signs we've just seen aren't standing alone like random acts of nature. Together, they form a bigger picture that no one can just ignore. From sky-shaking sounds, glowing orbs floating in the air, to 3 suns lined up across the sky, all of them show a strange rhythm between heaven and earth. When we place them next to the old prophecies, we start to see a match that makes the heart stop and think. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." What we're seeing today seems to echo that very warning. Not to scare people into panic, but to wake up a generation that's fallen asleep in the false safety of technology and human reasoning. Matthew 24:42 reminds us, "Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." Staying awake isn't just about watching the sky. It's about looking inside our own soul. If these signs are like alarm bells, the important thing isn't arguing where they come from. It's what they're calling us back to. Revelation 3:20 says, "Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person." In the middle of all these changes in nature and society, that door might just be the human heart. These 10 strange signs don't try to pin down the exact day or hour of the end, but they remind us that time isn't forever, and the chance to repent, to love, to change is still open. This isn't a message of fear. It's an invitation full of hope. Hope that before it's too late, people will choose humility over pride, faith over indifference. Each of us can start with a simple prayer, a decision to live a little more honestly than yesterday, or one real act of kindness in everyday life. If something here touches your heart, leave a prayer or a thought in the comments below. Let's build a place together where faith is strengthened and we remind each other to stay awake. And if these words make you think more deeply, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next message. Thank you for staying with me until this moment. I pray that you and your family are kept safe in peace, protected through every storm, and that you find light even in the darkest days. Amen. The sky is speaking. Are you listening? Have you ever been in a situation where you were absolutely certain you were about to die, and then in a way that makes no sense to human logic? You were pulled back from the jaws of death by just a hair's breadth? Has a voice ever rang out clear as day in your head? Stop! Get out of the way! Run! When there wasn't a single soul around you? Or maybe you suddenly changed some everyday little action, a tiny movement, one simple step, and that coincidence ended up saving your life? Think about it. If that moment had been just 1 second different, science calls it luck. A few folks say it's an amazing coincidence, but the ones who've lived through it whisper to each other, "No, that was the hand of God." Do you feel that too? Today we're going to look at 7 real moments caught on camera, seconds when death was right there, but an unseen power stepped in just in time. 7 stories, 7 modern-day miracles, and 7 times God reminded us He's still watching over every single hair on our heads. Take a close look at every detail in these clips, and you'll see those moments that seem so ordinary are actually traces of a presence we can't see with our eyes. You know, sometimes life and death are only one step, one heartbeat, one invisible hand apart. And if you've ever had a moment like that yourself, please don't keep it to yourself. Share your story so everyone can hear about the wonder of the Lord. Now, are you ready? Let's dive in and go through each one. I promise they'll have you on the edge of your seat 1 minute and saying, "Wow," the next. Here we go. 1. A father and son escaped disaster by a hair's breadth. A dad and his little boy were riding their bikes nice and slow along the edge of a 2-lane road out in the Texas countryside. It was a bitter cold winter day. The wind was whipping past their ears and cutting right through their clothes. The dad was about 40, the boy was 8, and they were just enjoying a rare, quiet moment together, not having a clue that something terrible was about to happen in the blink of an eye. A loaded semi-truck tried to pass another vehicle and swerved into the left lane. Before anyone could react, a big rig was barreling straight toward it from the opposite direction. In an instant, the 2 trucks smashed head-on. The sound of twisting metal filled the air, and sharp pieces of aluminum flew everywhere like shrapnel, heading right for the father and son, who were only a few feet away. Just picture that moment. Heart pounding, breath caught in your throat, body frozen in fear. And then, something miraculous happened. Not a single piece touched them. If you watch the video in slow motion, you'll see those big chunks of metal flying straight at them, then suddenly veer off at the last second, like an invisible shield popped up just in time. See what I mean? Some unseen force, some power way beyond human understanding, protected them by the skin of their teeth. The dad later said, "It felt like somebody gently pushed us aside so we wouldn't step into death's door." Don't you see? 1 second later, and the whole story could have ended differently. The Bible talks about this exact thing. Psalm 91:11 says, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." And Psalm 34:7 says, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." Watch that video closely, and you'll see those verses come alive in every frame. Not fake, but real protection. From that freezing road in Texas, let's head up to a chilly gym in Canada, where a young woman almost lost her life because of one simple axe throw. See, miracles show up in the places you'd least expect. 2. Young woman tries axe throwing and almost gets seriously hurt. There's a busy axe throwing place in Ontario, Canada. A 4-year-old girl is trying it for the first time. She's holding a 3-pound axe, heart pounding. She's excited and scared all at once. Everything around her goes quiet, just the low murmur of the crowd and her own heartbeat thumping in her chest. It feels like time slows way down. Every second stretches out forever. Her first throw looks normal at the start, but then the axe bounces back, spins in a perfect arc, and comes flying straight at her face, right at eye level. She barely has time to close her eyes and brace for the worst. You know, just 1 second slower, and the ending could have been completely different. And then, something amazing happens. When the blade is only 2 inches from her face, the axe suddenly turns 90 degrees
and drops straight down, landing right at her feet. She was shaking when she told the story later. I swear it felt like an invisible hand grabbed the handle and pulled it down. Watch the video closely. You can actually see the air move, the way it changes direction. That exact moment, like someone standing next to her quietly kept her safe. It wasn't just luck. Some unseen power, something way bigger than we can understand, stepped in at the last second. Don't you see? An invisible presence changed the path of what should have been death. Like God himself reached out and guided that axe. Look at Psalm 121:5. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is the shade at your right hand. See what I mean? Those moments that seem totally random are living proof he's watching over us, even in the little things. From that chilly room in Canada, we're heading up to a snow-covered peak in the Alps, where a pro skier suddenly runs into an invisible wall. Miracles aren't always big and flashy. Sometimes they show up in the most ordinary seconds and still change a whole life. 3. Young skier, saved by an invisible push, up at 10,500 feet, temperature -15 degrees. This 32-year-old guy was doing a straight-down run to film a video. Picture it. Wind slamming your face, snow flying everywhere, hitting 70 miles an hour, heart about to pound out of your chest. One split second. That's all it takes for everything to change forever. Halfway down the slope, he suddenly veered hard left for no reason he could explain. No warning, no hand on his back, yet his body just turned. The very next second, a 4-foot-deep slab of snow where he'd just been broke off and roared down into the abyss. Half a second slower, and he'd have been gone. No chance, no way back. He still gets shaky telling it. I swear, something hit me hard on the right shoulder and shoved me left. There was nobody there. Watch the video slow motion, and you'll see that turn makes no sense. No physics, no normal reflex. It happened too fast, too perfect, too miraculous. That run wasn't just a close call on skis. It was proof something invisible stepped in. Something way bigger than anything we can figure out. Sometimes the line between living and dying is paper thin. The Bible says it plain in Psalm 91:11. For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. That sudden turn, that snow letting go right on time. It sure looks like God's own hand moved the man out of harm's way. Now we'll come down from those snowy peaks to a quiet bus stop in Novosibirsk, Russia, where a 4-5-year-old man is waiting in sleet and blowing snow. See, that same protection doesn't only show up on the Alps. It slips into the ordinary moments too, even when we think nobody could possibly save us. Look close and you'll spot the perfect timing, like an unseen hand guiding every move, keeping a person safe when danger looked unavoidable. And you're left wondering, was it just luck? Or was God right there? 4. The utility pole stopped in midair, right above the man's head. It all started at a quiet intersection, the road still slick from a drizzle that had just let up. A 4-5-year-old guy was standing there, waiting for the bus. Hands jammed deep in his jacket pockets to stay warm, staring across the street like he was counting every second. Everything felt heavy and dead quiet. You could hear every single raindrop hitting your own hat. Then out of nowhere, 2 cars came flying in from opposite directions, way too fast. Head-on crash. No way to avoid it. One of the cars skidded about 60 feet and slammed straight into a 30-foot concrete utility pole. You see it coming. One more second, and that pole is gonna crush the guy. But here's the wild part. When the top of the pole was maybe 1 foot from his head, it just stopped dead in midair, like something invisible grabbed it, then gently lowered it onto the roof of the car behind him. Move over just a couple more inches, and the story ends very differently. Afterward, the man said, voice still shaking, I don't know why it stopped. There were no wires, no cables, nobody holding it. I just felt some kind of energy protecting me. Watch the video close. Little chunks of concrete are flying everywhere, but not one piece touches him. Pure luck? Or did an unseen hand step in right on time? This story takes me straight back to the Bible, where God's power shows up in these miracle protections. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23-4. A guy standing in the middle of danger, a huge pole freezing inches from his head. It feels like living proof that God really is there, watching over the people he loves. See, life and death can be just a few inches apart. Sometimes, the rescue doesn't come from people at all. It comes from a power we can't see with our eyes. From freezing Novosibirsk, we'll head next to Warsaw, Poland, where an old tree waited for exactly the right person to fall on. But before we go, look at this moment again. An invisible strength didn't just save one man's life. It reminds us that every step we take, every second we live, is held in God's hands. Watch that video one more time, and you'll see things the mind can't explain, but the spirit sure feels. 5. The boy escaped the falling tree thanks to a mysterious shout. It was a dry, bitter cold winter day, with gusts hitting force 8 on the wind scale. The 200-year-old oak tree right in front of the house gate had been rotting for years. A young guy was standing there, messing with his phone while waiting for his buddy. The wind was howling, leaves flying everywhere, his legs shaking from the cold, when all of a sudden, he stepped over to the side, like someone told him to move. Right then, the base of that oak started leaning hard. You could hear the dry branches snapping, a sound that'd make your skin crawl. And out of nowhere came this deep, strong man's voice, booming through the air. "Get out of there right now!" The guy jumped, thought it was his friend yelling, and backed up a few steps real quick. Guess what? Just seconds after he moved, that tree, over 10 tons of it, came crashing down exactly where he'd been standing, missing his feet by maybe 3 feet. If he hadn't reacted, well, you don't even want to think about it. Shaking, he asked his friend, "Was that you yelling at me?" His buddy shook his head. "Man, I haven't even left the house yet." Take a close look at the video. You'll see the tree fall scary fast, but there's nobody near the guy. No warning at all. It's like some invisible force was in charge. Pure luck? Or something miraculous that nobody can explain? This story always reminds me of that verse in the Bible, where God guides and warns the people he loves. Your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." Isaiah 30-21. That shout out of nowhere that got the young man out of danger just in time, it feels like living proof of the unseen guidance we can't always see with our eyes, but our spirit sure can feel. Put yourself there for a second. You're standing in that spot, watching this huge old rotten tree swaying in the freezing wind. Your heart's pounding, hands stuffed in your coat pockets, eyes glued to what's happening. Just a couple seconds. That's all. That's the difference between life and death. 3 little feet. Makes you wonder, is there really some unseen power watching over every step we take? And if you slow the video way down, you'll notice the tree actually seems to stop just short of the guy before it finally hits the ground, like it miraculously never touched him. Sometimes salvation comes in ways our brains can't figure out, but our souls know it's real. From a freezing day in Warsaw, this moment leads us straight into the next story. A cell phone that suddenly spoke with a voice from nowhere. Another gentle reminder that God is still guiding and protecting his kids. 6. A girl heard a strange warning from the other end of the line while crossing the street. It was a gloomy winter day in London, kinda dark out, with a light fog hanging over the streets. This 19-year-old girl was deep in a FaceTime call, walking along the sidewalk, holding her phone tight with both hands, talking a mile a minute. Picture this. One more step, and she would have walked right out into traffic, totally in the blind spot of a double-decker bus coming at 40 miles an hour. She said later, "We were chatting and all of a sudden my friend screamed, 'Watch out!' I froze and slowed down for just 1 second. That 1 second, a second that seemed like nothing, saved her from a terrible accident." Here's the really strange part. When she turned around and asked, "What did you just see that made you yell like that?" her friend said, "I didn't yell anything. I'm home alone in my room. Sounds crazy, right? But the whole thing was caught on the phone's camera. A voice came out of nowhere, yet it warned her exactly when she needed it and stopped her at the perfect moment. The Bible talks about moments like that. I have called you by name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. A reminder that God knows every little thing about us. And your ears shall hear a word behind you. Isaiah 30:21. Like an invisible warning that keeps us from danger. Take a close look at the video, and you'll see her totally focused on the call, walking without a care, then suddenly stopping for no obvious reason. What looked like a random second turns out to be living proof that an unseen power is watching over us. No crash, no scream, just one quiet second, full of miracle. Don't we all have days when, if something hadn't stepped in, everything would have turned out completely different? A sudden pause, a shout with no source, 1 second of delay, all like invisible hands, protecting us. From foggy London, we'll head next to a little woodshop in America, where a falling piece of lumber somehow got steered so nobody got hurt. You'll see, miracles don't always happen in big fancy places. Most of the time, they show up in the ordinary little moments of everyday life. Life is so fragile, isn't it? And in the most normal seconds of the day, God is still watching every step we take, still whispering those quiet warnings that, if we listen, can save our lives. 7. Flying wood shard hits a young man's face. At a small woodshop in Oregon, where the air's thick with the smell of fresh-cut pine and the table saws screaming at steady whine, a 9-year-old guy was totally locked in on his work, eyes glued to the board, both hands tight on the saw handle. Out of nowhere, a 2-foot chunk of wood shot off the blade like a bullet, rocketing straight at his face from less than 6 inches away. His heart just about stopped. Then, right at the last possible split second, that piece of wood suddenly veered off, barely grazed his temple, and clattered to the floor. You see it, don't you? One blink and a miracle stepped in. He told it like this: I felt this big whoosh of air right in front of my face, like somebody blew hard on purpose. Picture it. The saw still howling, that shard whistling past his ear, and this crazy mix of terror and wonder hanging in the air. A collision that should have happened just didn't. The Bible talks about moments exactly like that. The wind blows wherever it pleases. That's how it is with the Spirit. John 3:8. You know, there's an invisible power that can save a life in the blink of an eye. And he makes the winds his messengers. Psalm 104:4. Like every gust, every little shift in the air is guided by something bigger. That moment left the young man, and anyone who heard the story, shaken to the core. We all live one heartbeat away from disaster sometimes. 1 second slower, 1 step later, one unseen warning, and everything changes. Miracles, plain and simple. You've just read about 7 times people believe an unseen hand from God reached in at the very last moment and pulled lives back from the edge. Which one hit you the hardest? Those moments we just saw, from the board that whipped past the guy in an Oregon lumber mill, to the girl in London who got a phone warning right on time, the power pole about to crash in Novosibirsk, the huge old tree coming down in Warsaw, the skier in the Alps, and the girl throwing an axe in Ontario. They all share one thing: an invisible power stepping in at the last second. Did you notice? In just half a second to 2 seconds, something that looked like pure bad luck or an accident got turned around in a way that's hard to explain, but absolutely perfect. Now let's look back at these stories together, think them through, and see what they really mean, so we can better understand how God works His power in moments that seem completely random. Every one of these things happened in half a second to 2 seconds, and the big thing they all have in common is an unseen force. A push, a pull, a block, a change of direction, or a voice warning somebody. Like Psalm 91, verse 11 says, "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Just think about it. Every push, every gust of wind, every voice that spoke up was one of those invisible angels keeping us safe in the nick of time. Think about the Bible stories. An angel blocked Balaam's path when he was riding along. That's in Numbers 22. Or an angel opened the prison doors for Peter, Acts 12. In both cases, an unseen power stepped in right when it had to and saved lives that looked like they were already done for. Same thing happens today. From the lumber mill to the city street, the same amazing way God works. Remember when the Lord called little Samuel 3 times? 1 Samuel 3. God's help doesn't always come with thunder and lightning. It's quiet, gentle, but it gets the job done perfectly. And the person who's saved knows something supernatural just happened. Go back and watch that Oregon clip again. That board didn't miss the man because of his quick reflexes. Someone was behind the scenes steering that unseen force. Jesus calmed the storm with just a word. That shows his power doesn't have to follow the usual rules of nature. He steps right into the middle of things. All these stories we just watched, the board, the tree, the power pole, the voice on the phone, they remind us of one simple truth. The Lord is always watching, always protecting, even when we can't see him with our own eyes. If you go through Psalm 91 line by line, you'll see a strange but perfect connection to every single one of these events. He will cover you with his feathers. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day. Every promise fits. The arrow of that falling power pole, the sudden disaster of the old tree, the flying board in the mill. Everything stopped just inches away. Do you see it? It's all a gentle reminder. God's power isn't only in the Bible. It's working in our everyday lives right now. These close call moments are living proof that God is keeping us safe, watching every step we take and protecting us in the quietest, surest way possible. So think about it. Has that same unseen hand ever kept you safe in a split second you didn't even realize at the time? Pay attention. Listen. Feel it. These miracles aren't far away. They're all around us. Just like Psalm 91 promised thousands of years ago. From what seemed like pure coincidences, a piece of wood suddenly changing direction in Oregon, a girl in London hearing a warning through her phone, all of it points to one big truth. God is still at work right in the middle of everyday life, stepping in even on the tiniest details. Have you noticed? Every little nudge, every unseen shout, every sudden gust of wind isn't random at all. It's living proof of his power. Now, let's pull together the one main message from all these stories. Behind every close call, there's an invisible hand, protecting and guiding us. When we see that, we can better hear God's personal invitation to each one of us. God is still moving today, not just in the big, dramatic stuff, but in the small things most folks never even notice. Go back and watch those videos again, and you'll see it plain as day. The flying board, the huge old tree falling, the power pole hanging in midair, all of them being steered by a force we can't see but can sure feel. He cares about every single detail, every life or death second, every step we take. We can't predict what's coming, but his power is always there, ready to shield anyone who trusts and leans on him. Look, not everybody gets spared from physical danger, but those who put their faith in him are saved from something far worse, eternal death. Do you see the amazing connection between what we just watched and the Bible? Isaiah 43:1 says, he calls you by your own name. And Isaiah 30:21 says, you'll hear a voice behind you saying which way to go, like he's whispering right into those split-second moments, warning us and guiding us just in time. Every board that turns, every pole that stops, every old oak that misses the guy standing nearby, it's all living proof. It's not just about physical miracles either. The message goes deeper. He wants us awake, aware of him in ordinary days, and trusting that unseen power. Stay awake and pray. Do you hear his voice in the quiet, normal moments? Do you feel that invisible hand steering you, guarding you, reminding you that life is precious and every second counts? Look back at everything we saw: the skier in the Alps, the girl warned in London, the power pole in Novosibirsk, the huge tree in Warsaw, the chunk of wood in Oregon. They're all gentle reminders that God's power never leaves us. It's there, in the little things, in every heartbeat close second. Pay close attention, and you'll spot a beautiful order where God's power works with perfect timing. This isn't just a warning, it's an invitation. Stay awake, pray, trust Him. In a world full of uncertainty and danger, His presence is the one thing that never moves, the unseen shield in every storm. You see, God is still calling, still acting, and every single one of us has the chance to listen and recognize that invisible power, keeping us safe and leading us on. So ask yourself, in those moments that seem like pure chance, are you listening for His voice? Do you notice that unseen hand pulling you out of harm's way and reminding you of the forever life He promises to everyone who believes? That's the one message all 7 of these stories are trying to tell us. God's power is always here, always stepping in, and always inviting every one of us to put our trust in Him. In the blink of an eye, life and death can be just a hand's width apart. Think about it. Just 1 second, one tiny delay, and everything can change forever. Flying pieces of wood, power poles crashing down, huge old trees toppling, or a bus that barely misses. All of it reminds us how fragile life really is. You see, that unseen power isn't just some miracle. It's a loud and clear warning, a reminder that God is still watching over every little detail of our lives. Today, you might be the next one He calls by name. Right this minute, in the middle of our busy, rushed lives, He's still watching, protecting, and guiding every step you take. Do you notice it? Every moment that seems like pure chance actually has His invisible hand stepping in, pulling you back from dangers you never saw coming. Listen, His voice is echoing everywhere, not just through physical miracles, but in your heart, in your gut feelings, in those sudden hunches you might brush off. Listen close. You can almost feel the breath of that power in every gust of wind, every silent scream, every close call you just lived through. Don't ignore the little signs, because that's exactly how He gets your attention. Wake up. Trust me. Put your life in my hands. Watch that video again, and you'll see His power didn't miss by an inch, and it never overlooks a single person. Believe. Faith isn't just believing something that happened long ago. It's trusting Him right now, in this living moment. The God we trust isn't only the God of the past. He's the God of right now, of every heartbeat, every breath, every second that feels ordinary, but is actually being carefully watched over by Him. Have you seen that wonder yet? Every event, everything that happens, is proof that His power is here, stepping in and keeping us safe. You know, this story isn't just to watch, it's to pass along. Tell your own story, or share a time you felt His unseen protection. Drop a prayer in the comments, so it joins with the power that's moving everywhere. Imagine if someone else reads it and feels His presence too. Faith would spread like wildfire. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so this message reaches more folks. Every share, every story someone tells, is another way that invisible power gets proven, so the people around us can notice that amazing protecting hand too. In a world full of uncertainty, every close call has meaning. What we just saw is living proof that God is still at work, that you're always being watched over, protected, and saved. So listen, believe, and share, because this message isn't just for one person. It's a reminder for all of us. Life is precious, that unseen power is real, and He's calling your name right now.
What? Not
2025 has kicked off like a wild storm, with the world drowning in crazy technology, wars heating up, and haunting news everywhere. Strange signs are hitting us out of nowhere, like shocks from some unseen place, making it impossible to look away from a reality that's shaking by the second. Have you noticed even nature seems angry, like it's whispering a huge secret? From the dark jungles of India to the noisy coasts of America, these weird things aren't just random. They're loud reminders that the Antichrist, the great deceiver, is rising, and God is warning mankind. Take a close look at those viral videos, and you'll see stuff that looks normal at first actually carries marks of something supernatural. These events aren't some science joke or random accidents. They're straight out of the Bible, coming true, just like Matthew 24:3 warned about the final signs. Every single one is a piece of the big picture: the rise of the Antichrist, nature's rage, and God's urgent call. Stick with me till the end of this video. Don't miss a single sign. This message didn't find you by chance. It came looking for you on purpose. You're one of the ones chosen to notice, to wake up before it's too late. Every moment, every image is testing your attention and your soul. So, are you ready to dive in with me and look closely at each strange event, each piece that's putting together the exact picture God warned about and prophesied thousands of years ago? Let's start with 1. Discovering a strange two-headed snake. Back in January 2025, in Bandipur National Park in Karnataka, India, a forest ranger named Rajesh Kumar was out on patrol when he suddenly spotted something really weird. It was a cobra about 6 feet long, but what stopped everyone in their tracks was that it had two heads, perfectly synced up, both attached to the same body. If you watch the video closely, you'll see each head seems to have its own mind. Sometimes they look in completely different directions, like two separate beings sharing one body. The footage spread like wildfire on social media and shocked people all over the world. Even modern science just has to stop and stare at something like this. Biologists from the Wildlife Institute of India explained it's a rare condition called polycephaly, having more than one head caused by a genetic mutation. It happens sometimes in reptiles, often because of pollution or inherited traits. Expert Priya Singh said the snake can survive thanks to a split nervous system, but almost never lives more than a few months. But it's not just a science thing. Doesn't this two-headed snake feel like a reminder of the Antichrist, the deceiver that wears many faces? Revelation 13:1 says, "I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, standing for the many-sided power of the one who opposes Christ." And Revelation 12:9 tells us, "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan." It's almost like a quiet warning that danger is rising among us. Watch the way each head moves. It really looks like they've got their own plans. It reminds us that deception doesn't always come with a big neon sign. Just imagine if this was a sign God sent straight to you. What would you do? While this two-headed snake has us thinking about hidden deception, something even wilder and more chaotic is happening out at sea, where thousands of sea creatures are gathering in huge numbers, like a warning of a great disaster coming soon. Keep watching, because every one of these signs is a piece of the end times picture we can't ignore. 2. Thousands of sardines swarming in one spot. Back in March 2025, down at Miami Beach, Florida, a tourist named Maria Lopez caught something on video that'll give you the chills. Hundreds of thousands of sardines packed together so tight they completely covered the boat dock area. They came right up to the surface, thrashing around like crazy, stretching almost 500 feet along the shore. Take a close look at that clip, and you'll see the whole beach turned into one big black wriggling mass. Tourism had to shut down for a bit, and it cost the local folks a good chunk of money. Now, you know this wasn't just normal fish behavior. Marine scientists from the University of Miami said it was unusual schooling caused by warmer ocean water or low oxygen. Dr. David Chen warned that plastic pollution and climate change can spook the fish and make them bunch up like that. But see, science only explains the surface stuff. Underneath, it feels like a sign of bigger trouble coming. something deep and hard to wrap your head around. When you watch that, doesn't it make you wonder what the ocean is trying to tell us? To me, it's almost like the Bible talking about another great flood coming. Remember Genesis 7:11. The fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened. And Matthew 24-38:3-9 says, "For as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark, and they were unaware until the flood came and swept